Hello and welcome to the Trust Factor Podcast, the only podcast that guarantees your success when you implement its divine age-old teachings. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining. I'm really glad you can make it today. I want to chat a little bit more about my trip to Israel. As you know, I just came back from a 3-week trip to the Holy Land, which was just an amazing trip. We went there for a purpose. But at the same time, you can never just go to Israel for one purpose and not travel and see the land and see the sights and take it all in. And there's so much to take in. I just want to mention that on what the world calls New Year's Eve, we happen to be in a place called the German Colony, a place in Haifa, in the heart of Israel, where people gathered from all walks of life. I posted a couple of reels about it on Facebook. You could see them there. And you will see very clearly what we saw, which is people from every faith and every background coming together to celebrate. Some people, it wasn't even their holiday. It wasn't ours. We were just tourists. So we went to spend a few hours out in the nightlife of Haifa. And somebody had recommended the German Colony, a Christian Templar area of Israel that was developed in the late 1800s. And what was in the background, the backdrop for the German Colony? The beautiful Baha'i Gardens, an amazing sight for those of you who haven't been there. The Baha'i faith, a monotheistic religion born in the 19th century in Israel, well cared for and promoted and visited by so many people. All these different cultures, faiths, and religions operating together in the same area in the holiest land in the world, protected by the IDF, protected by the Israeli government, protected by the Jewish nation, and appreciated. Do you understand? You contrast that with what goes on in Gaza and in the West Bank, and go on beyond that. Look at the rest of the Middle East. They simply have no regard for all of the beautiful history and culture that has built humanity in the region. The only thing they care about is their closed, insular history that in many cases hasn't progressed. Back in Israel, everywhere you turn, hospitals, schools, shopping malls, every place you go, restaurant, hotels, it is being manned and operated in many cases, sometimes a majority of Muslims. People dressed in Muslim garb, clearly identifying and confident of their Muslim identity and appreciated and allowed to exist safely and securely and to enjoy all the benefits that we were enjoying. Do you know what bothered me the most? The fact that myself, a Jew who was coming to visit, not familiar with the landscape, somebody who had to rely on GPS to be able to get them from place to place, I was terrified of making a wrong turn. I had to go into Waze and select the option to keep us out of dangerous territories. There's an option on Waze to make sure that you don't go into these territories because they are a life risk. And it's been that way for a very, very long time. Or the fact that when you rent a car, they warn you that you're not allowed to go into these territories. Otherwise, you get fined and you have no insurance. Do you understand? We're in Israel. If you make a wrong turn, you end up in their territory, a non-Jewish territory, the people who are putting all of their posts online so that the world can sympathize with them. That's the same group that car rental companies and that any human being in Israel has to fear taking a wrong turn and ending up in their territory because you may not come out alive. In fact, the odds are that if you don't know where you're going, you won't come out alive. Think about that. Yet, in the rest of Israel, Jewish-owned Israel, Jewish-populated Israel, you will find all cultures from all over the world walking around and enjoying confidently. Not for 1 second do they fear for their safety. That's the way it's supposed to be, my friends. That's the way human beings are supposed to live. We're not supposed to live in fear that if we make a wrong turn in our own home, in our own backyard, that somebody's waiting over there to kill us. Can you imagine? That's the way Israelis have had to live for generations, and nothing has changed. And then when they actually come into our territory, when they actually break down the fences, break through and come and impose their carnage and their genocidal attempts on us, even when we haven't made that wrong turn. They took the initiative to come over and do it anyways and try and destroy all the Jews and everybody else, by the way, Christians and Muslims, because they have no idea what they're doing and why they're doing it. And we fight back to defend ourselves. Suddenly you see their images all over social media, and people who have lost their minds, who know nothing, start to advocate on their behalf. You're advocating on the behalf of a culture that if you make a wrong turn in a free and democratic country, you will end up slaughtered just because of your faith, who you are, that you are not like them. Think about that. It's a very difficult pill to swallow, but it's real. I was just there. And any of you know, if you've been to Israel, I'm not exaggerating. I'm not making things up. That's exactly what it's like. Let's finish up number 5 over here. The reason that a lot of people would never start to invest in the relationship with their creator is if they doubt that he has the power that he has, that he's merciful, that he's compassionate, and that he's limitless, and that he possesses the resources and the ability to help us in any situation, even when we don't deserve his help. When you realize that the creator of the world is there, whether or not you want him there, whether or not you have a relationship with him, whether or not you believe is irrelevant, he's there. He wants to be involved in your life, and he's going to be involved in your life. The more you want him in your life, the more you see him in your life, the better your life is. The better the situation is, the more he wants to be involved. Like we said yesterday, the more a child interacts with a parent, the more the parent wants to interact with that child and do for that child to see them succeed. Every individual needs to believe, never mind believe, needs to know that the Creator loves him or her always and eagerly awaits to hear their prayers. The Creator listens to every word that a person says and wants to help. He delights in performing loving kindness for his children so that they'll have every success and blessing in life. Does that sound familiar? It should. If you are a parent and you have children, that should sound very familiar, because all of us, all parents, want their children to succeed and have blessings in life. The more they live a good life, the more his prestige grows. Any father's prestige is enhanced when his children are happy and successful. His mercy and compassion know no bounds. He can rescue a person from any difficulty if only they call out to him. If you call out, he will reciprocate. He will respond. If you don't, because you think you own this, you think it's you, it starts and ends with you, then he says, good luck. In the direction that a person wants to go, he takes them. He has an obligation to take you in the direction that you want to go. Why? Because after 120 years, you're going to come up to heaven and you're going to have to give an accounting. You're going to have to explain why you did X and why you didn't do Y. And you will never be able to use the excuse that you didn't know or you didn't want or you asked for X but you got Y. He will say, wrong. You wanted X, you got X. You'll remember a long time ago, I gave the analogy, I gave you the example of a child. You take a 5 or 6 year old child and you offer them a pack of freshly baked Oreo cookies. And on the other hand, you offer them $10,000 in cold hard cash. Any normal 5-year-old will always take the cookies because they don't understand the power of $10,000 and how many cookies it can buy them. You understand? So when you come up to heaven after 120 and you have to give your accounting, he's going to say, why did you choose the Oreos over the 10,000? You're not going to be able to say because I was hungry, because it's your obligation to know the difference between a bag of cookies and $10,000. And if you don't know that, then life will pass you by and you will make a series of very bad choices. And the whole point is to not make them, to not get to 120 when it's too late and then kick yourself and wish you'd have done it the other way. And everybody really, if you do a real soul searching and a real accounting of life, everybody should know, at least into adulthood, what the difference is between a box of cookies and $10,000. It's the same thing with life, my friends. You need to know what's meaningful and what's important, what is an end and what's a means to an end. Anyone who knows this turns to the Creator at every opportunity and spills his heart out to him, thanking him and asking him for all of his or her needs. When you know this, when you've lived it, when you've done the things that I've suggested and the books that we've been going through and learning from have suggested about how to create that relationship, you've reached out and opened up the pinhole and he's responded, and you've done that multiple times, you become bulletproof. You recognize immediately at the slightest turn whenever you're faced with, even when you're not faced with difficulties, certainly when you're faced with difficulties, but even beyond that, even when things are good, you stop. Your natural inclination as a good person is to stop and say, thank you. I realize things are going so great. I realize and I'm grateful for all the amazing things that I have in my life that the Creator has given me. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I don't stop saying thank you because that's the right thing to do. It's to appreciate what you've been given. And when you do that, you will get so much more. And even all the more so when things are difficult, your instinct will be immediately to turn to God and say, I need you here. And when a parent sees that a child turns to them in a time of difficulty and says, I need you here, and he knows that that's the same child that comes to him even when things are good and says, thank you for everything, the parent steps up every single time. And who better to step up for you than an eternal, all-powerful, all-knowing, all-capable Creator? Have an amazing day. Thank you for spending time with us on the Trust Factor podcast. If you've heard something today that moved you, save this episode and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss upcoming conversations that challenge, empower, and uplift. And if you're on social media, connect with us. Leave your thoughts. Drop a quote that resonated with you. Hashtag the Trust Factor podcast. Until next time, keep growing in your trust and keep living with purpose. I'm Jesse Revivo, and this has been the Trust Factor podcast. Thanks for listening.